Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell, this is not a regular video for me. It's taken me a bit to make this video between things that I'm going to explain and being out of town, and I know that a lot of people were demanding it. I know a lot of people were very understanding that I had to heal a little bit and then find more information before just jumping to make a video. I'm going to tell you the series of events in terms of my experience, like how I found out, how I reacted, so on and so forth. Then at the end, I'll tell you the more emotional side of how I'm feeling, blah, 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 things that aren't really facts, just my emotions, basically. And I have my computer here because I wanted to make notes to make sure I touched on everything. So if you see me looking down, it's just that. The reason I wanted to make this video wasn't necessarily because I wanted to make this video, but I didn't want my silence to be taken as compliance, which I know that's often how it works on the internet. So I felt like if I didn't say anything, it would be like me seconding somebody else's actions or not looking at evidence and so on and so forth. So that's why this video is happening in the first place. Before I mention this particular situation, I need to tell you about something that happened to me in the past that is very relevant, and it might not seem relevant immediately, but trust me, it will become very obvious why I'm mentioning this. Years ago, when I started YouTube and I was very new and I didn't know much about how things worked, monetization, hashtags, whatever, I was friendly with a YouTuber who was older than me. So he was kind of like a mentor, and he was also a father, and he also had been in the business in the sense of he'd worked on things relating to the internet and analytics and so on and so forth. So he was a bit of a mentor to me. The only things I knew about this particular person was the name they used online, which wasn't their real name. It was a pseudonym, of which apparently there were many. And I knew what country they allegedly lived in. Aside from that, I didn't know anything. We also both spoke Italian, so that was something we related on. I know this person was an older man and not, like a catfish, because this person did Skype me a few times in distress, which is also an important thing to remember. So one day I get an email from someone who is an alleged counselor, and they tell me that this person has been found dead, this YouTuber who I was friendly with. I went into immediate freak out, fully knowing that rationally a counselor wouldn't just contact me like that, like they wouldn't just email you like that. The whole process was sketchy and weird, but part of me had a really bad feeling simply because he had been tweeting really grim things like, "I'm sorry," "goodbye," things that indicated self-harm or worse, suicide. So when I got the email of the counselor and then this YouTuber had deleted their social media, I really freaked out because it all aligned. So even though the counselor thing was sketch, I freaked out and I started panicking. I was home alone, so I didn't have anyone to really turn to at the moment. So I went live on YouTube, desperately hoping that someone knew more than me. I was hoping that maybe there was someone he was closer with that, knew the authorities in Japan, which was the country he allegedly lived in, or, like knew some kind of avenue I could go down to find out whether this was true, to see if there was anything that was needed, because it was all so vague and suspicious that I just wanted to see if there was someone that could help me figure out what to do. Before this, I was only vaguely aware of Lolcow. I'd only used it once in the past to get screenshots for a video. But other than that, I did not spend any time on there. So I knew vaguely how it worked, but I didn't know that this YouTuber I was friendly with was on there. But a few days after the alleged death of this friend, one of the admins of Lolcow found that this person had been posting past the time that he had allegedly died. So basically what we found out was that he, in fact, was not dead. So not only was he alive and pretending to be dead, but they also flagged all the posts where he was impersonating himself. As we know, that's not something you're allowed to do there. And in some of those posts, he had said really vicious and malicious things about me, which was obviously hurtful. but not as hurtful as me beginning to mourn and then finding out, you know, oh, that's not what's happening here, basically. And in fact, I think this is one of the only times I've posted on there where I posted to let him know, hey, name of person, I know you're here. He later on ended up calling me distraught, you know, in tears. Like he stayed on the phone for hours, calling from like all random numbers, telling me that he was sorry and also admitting that everything that the admins had flagged was true, that it was him. And he tried to rationalize, doesn't matter. But the bottom line is it was true. The admin did not make a mistake in tracking his IP back to him and showing that at X time he was online and posting. Cut to a few days ago, I get a random DM on Twitter, and the DM basically told me, hey, there's someone shit talking you on lolcow. And I basically responded to them saying, please don't send me these types of DMs, because I specifically don't go on there because I find it negatively affects me and I don't gain anything from seeing people say things about me. Like, there's no point. Later on, I find out via Shannon that people are alleging that she's posting this vile shit about her friends on lolcow. She tells me that it's someone impersonating her and spoofing her IP address. So she's not the one, there's someone pretending to be Shannon. That was the narrative. She'd been my close friend for years, and I didn't understand much about how IPs worked and spoofing and what's possible versus what's not possible versus what happens all the time. I was inclined to believe her because she was a friend of mine. For me, it was very much a real friendship offline. I met her in real life before the pandemic. We sent each other gifts. We both shared personal experiences that we'd had with each other that are private. You know, like, we had a very real friendship. So my inclination was to believe her because I'm not going to run to believe that a friend is shit talking me on a website. I don't think anyone who really trusts their friends would do that. So that's why right off the bat, I posted this, and it's been deleted since because obviously I changed my mind, but I went on to YouTube where she'd done a community post explaining, essentially saying the same thing of the IP spoofing, etc. And I screenshotted all of it and put it on Twitter so I got more visibility. And I basically said, go send Shannon some love, something along those lines. And I really was dead set on believing her because I didn't understand the IP situation, firstly. And secondly, like I said, it's hard for me to believe that someone that I'd been this close to would do that. However, the next day I saw comments and I began to look into IPs and spoofing and how all of this works because I'm not technically well versed in any of these things. I also then saw that an admin from lolcow had confirmed that the posts that, you know, people were claiming were Shannon were actually Shannon via confirming that her IP had been consistent. So much like in my previous situation, the admin confirmed, yes, this is actually the person. This is actually Shannon, just like that was actually YouTuber X. So this immediately became reminiscent for me in a very obviously horrible way because I felt like I was being put back in the same position I was in when this happened with that other YouTuber because the events are so similar, right? Except that here I was close friends with the person, so with Shannon, so it hurt a lot more. So like I said, Shannon was posting saying that her IP had been spoofed, but then when I looked into it, I asked my friends who are more knowledgeable, who know about this stuff. I asked my husband about it. And when they began to explain to me how all of this worked, it became hard for me to believe that she'd been spoofed. They also all were under the consensus of it is extremely unlikely that multiple devices were being spoofed over 300 times over multiple years. Like, the probability of that being a reality was next to null, basically. The only way in which this would happen would be that the person would have to be a pro hacker, and even the probabilities of that were low. It was difficult for me to hear that it was very unlikely that someone was impersonating her. It was difficult to internalize or accept the possible new reality of, oh yeah, this person actually, they weren't who you thought they were. And worst of all, they wanted to kind of convince you into thinking your relationship was something it wasn't. And the most confusing and almost laughable part of this is that a couple days before all of this information came out, Shannon had sent me roses to my own house. You know, so like, I think that was also part of it. It sounds stupid, but it's like, how do you reconcile, oh yeah, someone sent me roses, but they also don't think much of me and are shit talking me on a website. It is so contradictory that you almost feel a little bit crazy because you're like, okay, what happened in between? Like, you know, so I think that also made me feel worse because I was like, what do these flowers represent? What does this mean? So, you know, when a friend hurts you privately, it's horrendous. When a friend hurts you publicly, it's equally horrendous, and it puts you in a very strange place where you have to explain things you might not know or understand. And that's kind of where I've been in this situation, which is why I've also not wanted to speak too quickly. I didn't want to jump the gun because, like I said, I didn't understand some of the technology, and I also just didn't understand what I was supposed to believe and where I was at, even though there was clear evidence, in my opinion, that some shit talking had been said, but I wanted to see also, is there more? The other reason I was silent is because this took a massive, massive toll on my mental and physical health. And, you know, if you guys have been following me, I've been struggling already generally, you know, with just human mental health shit, you know, whatever. So this added thing happening was so unexpected, first of all, but also just so jarring that, you know when something's so jarring that you don't know where to place it, it's almost like you're holding something and you have nowhere to put it in your brain. It kind of felt like that. Nonetheless, I could see that Shannon was getting a lot of hate, so I did check in on her. Because no matter what, I don't want people to self-harm. I don't want people to do worse. And, you know, I could imagine that having all these people piling on you, even if you are guilty, nobody deserves to hurt themselves. So I checked in on her, though I was entirely transparent when I checked in on her, saying, you know, like, this is not me saying I'm on your side. This is me saying, I don't know what to do with the situation, but I don't want you to hurt yourself. Shannon didn't volunteer much information at all because I just wanted to find evidence. Of course, I was hoping that for some reason she'd be innocent. Of course, nobody wants or hopes for their friends to be guilty. But the core thing was I wanted to find evidence. So if she was guilty, I knew she was guilty. And if she was innocent, I knew she was innocent. But at least I knew and had concrete evidence to make my conclusion as opposed to just running to one side or the other immediately, which is what I really wanted to avoid doing. This is the part where a group of friends that Shannon and I had in common, some of which who were also mentioned in these threads, decided to make a group chat. In this group chat, we were basically discussing ways in which to try to find more evidence. No matter what that evidence was, whether it was good or bad, like I said, we just wanted to find evidence so we could come to a conclusion. Also, in order for our own selves to be able to have some kind of closure and decide, okay, I think this or I think that. So that was the entire point, aside from obviously just supporting each other through a really weird and strange time. And also I'd like to add, the reason why a lot of us were silent was exactly because we were searching for this evidence and we didn't want to put out misinformation, and we wanted to wait to see what we could find before just talking about it and having to constantly post video updates or corrections. We just wanted to put the right version out and have that be that. So as of now, I'm not here to give you the innocent or guilty verdict. All I'm going to say is the lolcow admin confirmed her post. The last time it happened to me, it was true. And I believe that that is the most concrete information we have. And I believe she did make those posts. But I do think that is, like I said, the most concrete information we have in terms of visible screenshots that are confirmed by a website administrator. In regards to how I feel, there's a lot to say and then not much to say at the same time, because I'm obviously very hurt, very shaken, distraught, any kind of synonym you can think that goes with that. It's been very difficult to wrap my head around and to accept that I came to the conclusion of believing that those posts were in fact made by her. And there's a lot floating around about other things she may have done. A lot of it looks very damning. The thing is, once I accepted the admin situation and attaching with that the IP spoofing being unlikely, that for me is kind of the end of the situation, because for me, once you go behind my back and say shit about me, it almost doesn't matter what shit you're saying about me. It's done, because the trust is gone there, let alone all the horrible things she said generally. But I'm talking about our friendship specifically. As soon as that was outed and I accepted that it was true, in my opinion, that's when things for me were done, because I can't trust someone who does that. And I don't think anyone can. And that's a very hard thing to just accept, that someone that you've known or that you thought you knew so well just kind of poof, vanished out of your life. Just like that, they disappeared. It's very difficult. And like I said, it's very reminiscent of something I had already experienced. So I think that's another reason why there was a lot of silence, is because I didn't really know what to say. And I'm still processing those feelings right now. They're all shitty and painful, but that's all there is for me to really say about it. For me, it's case closed. That's it. You guys can let me know what you think down below. I hope this made sense. I apologize for the different setting and, you know, everything being a little bit messy, but it's been a messy situation, and I think everyone who was or believed to be friends with her is in the same boat as me.